is Crystal J, and welcome to the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast with me, Crystal J. Today we're going to be talking about fear. What is fear? How does fear affect us? Does it affect you? How does it affect us? How can we overcome fear? And I think fear is such a big thing that it's actually going to be a series that we're going to break into fear because it's such a huge thing. So, again, welcome to episode 6, and we're just getting started with the.
So, are you ready to unlock your healing power, to turn your wounds into wisdom, to replace the fear of the unknown with courage to face it head on? If so, welcome to the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast, a beacon of hope in your healing journey. I am your host, Crystal J, and now I would love for you to imagine this space as a sanctuary where we unravel the tightly knotted threads of our past traumas, where we transform our secret silent cries of pain into powerful roars of strength, a place where we finally break free from the invisible chains that are holding us hostage. It's time to stop questioning who you are and start discovering your authentic self. This is not just about survival, it's about thriving. It's about embracing the journey of transformational healing that leads you to live a life filled with joy, passion, and purpose. Each week, we will dive into powerful conversations, share inspirational stories, and sometimes heartbreaking stories because guess what? It's all real and it's all true. And we'll provide practical tools that will empower you to navigate through life's challenges. So no matter where you are in your healing journey, this podcast here is designed to help you tap into your inner strength and embrace your uniqueness and awaken with your full potential. So now, let's begin.
What is fear? So, when you think of fear, what words come across your mind, or what kind of reaction does your body have when you think of fear? For me, I think fear, I think shame, I think guilt, I think not being able to accomplish things. I think of fear of the unknown, or fear of failure, or just fear of moving forward. I really experienced fear when it came time for me to really begin that true healing journey, the empowered transformational healing journey that I always speak about. Man, I experienced a lot of fear before I started that journey, but especially when I was about to get started, because I didn't know what was going to be next. And I had just about given up on if there was something more. Because you see, I had went through the processes time and time again to actually heal from my traumas, and by going to therapy, by journaling, and I was still walking around sometimes with that pit in my stomach that something just wasn't right. I felt a lot of shame, and definitely I had a fear of failure. I had a fear of rejection. I had a fear of abandonment. I had a fear of letting others down. One thing that I did do was decide to be all in on me, and all in on trying to heal and trying to get better. At first, heal wasn't even the word. I just wanted to get better. I just wanted to feel better. I wanted my life to be better. That's what I wanted. And it was in the process of taking courses and implementing the things that I was learning that I realized I was on an empowered transformational healing journey. It was then that I realized I had a fear of abandonment. Because before, I wouldn't necessarily said that. I would say that I would be sad sometimes, I would be lonely sometimes, and I didn't want to lose people. But when I realized that it was a fear of abandonment, it was like, whoa, no. But what is fear? I said a couple of words, and I hope that you have taken time to say a couple of words to yourself of when you hear fear, what words come to your mind. And let me know. I want to know what words came to your mind when you thought of fear. And so it says like fear is something that we like when we're about to or when we feel like we're about to encounter a threat. It's a emotional or physical experience that has happened, and it triggers a psychological response. And that response is our fight, flight, freeze, right? So our fight is we're preparing to fight whatever we're scared of, whatever is being we're fearful of, or whatever else, right? I hope you're not, really fighting like this. And then flight is when we run. We're like, oh no, that is scary. We're running. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to talk about like Halloween's coming up. And I know a lot of people take their kids trick or treating and everything else. And it's like when your kid is young and you're going and you might be going down the street. And I think like every city has this one area of town that is the place for Halloween, right? And you're there and your kids are walking around, all the other kids walking around, but then there's this one haunted house and everybody's like, oh, I don't want to go there. And you go and then you get scared and you run. That's that fear. That's that flight. You're running from whatever is fearful. You're like, I'm not dealing with you. I'm gone. I'm out of here. Right? Deuces. And you have those moments of, um, you know, um, there's been times where we did trick or treating. A lot of times we go as a group and we either carpool or we meet each other in one area by the area of town for the trick or treating. And then we walk to the actual street, right? And this is real long street where I'm at, and that's the area to go trick or treating, y'all. Okay, they have the best candy. Always had. Even when I was little, that was a spot to go trick or treating, and even now today, that is still the spot. It's like everybody who has a lot of those houses are people who've been there forever, but it's like generation after generation. They're like keeping that up. They're all like decking it out. You already know you're going to have a couple of houses that's going to be the haunted houses, and like, okay, they did something new this year. It's like real, y'all. But there's been a couple times we went as a group, and we have one set of kids who runs off because they're scared of something, and then we're chasing after these set of kids, and then we were like, hold on, where's such and such, and realized such and such just froze because that kid was too scared to move, right? And so that's that freeze response. But in the fight, flight, freeze, FFF, right? The fight, flight, freeze response is designed for our survival. And then without the fear response, it would actually leave us open to danger. So if it's there to protect us and for survival, then why is it that fear also limits us, right? And when we are fearful, I know when I have fear, a lot of times my heart gets to racing. Breaths are like going like crazy. It's like almost in that point where you're having like a panic attack, right? Or there's been times to where I feel really nauseated, especially when it comes to the fear of the unknown, getting nauseated. Or what about when you're going on an I often say roller coaster, like elevator and roller coaster together. I guess when you're on a roller coaster ride, right, and you're going up, 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 and during that time, it's like I'm feeling like all a little nauseated, and at the same time, I'm looking for it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun because you're gonna have like that drop in your stomach. But then at the same time, that drop, even though it's like it's kind of weird because it's like it kind of feels good, but it's scared at the same time. Oh no, maybe that's just me. Let me know if that's just me or if you be feeling that way too. But you have that pit in your stomach, you know. Another thing when I'm fearful, especially like I'll get like all sweaty and everything else, um, or when I'm fearful, I just want to be cuddled when I have fear. And but when we have fear and our bodies are reacting in the ways that it does, right? Because like some symptoms could be set the rapid breathing, but some people actually have shortness of breath, right? It depends on if you're going to that fight, flight, or freeze. You can have sweating. How many people have had shakes or trembles? And it could be that your muscles get tense or your body starts to ache or and you have dilated pupils and you feel just faint and dizzy. And some people actually do faint because they're so scared. But all of this it's also caused by the extra adrenaline and blood that is going to our muscles and our brain because it's preparing those muscles to just really either fight, right? Or to run, to flight. And so it's like rushing all that to the muscles in the brain so they can go and our muscles can be ready to move, right? Then comes the fight with the fight, flight, fright. Then it comes with the stress, right? When you're fearful, then sometimes you're stressed. And with that stress, our body releases cortisol, and that cortisol also causes us with problems with sleeping and focusing and gaining weight, and it affects our immune response, and it goes back to stress kills, and it goes back to where we got to take care of ourselves, and it goes back to we got to overcome our fears. You see where I'm going with this? It's all related. And so I want to know, have you ever experienced a fear of failure? And to be honest, some people don't even know that what they're feeling has a name or phrase to it. Because some people just be like, well, they won't say I have a fear of failure, but they be like, man, I don't want my I don't want to do this because my dream may not come true. Or I'm scared of moving forward with this relationship because all my other relationships ended badly. Or it could be, I'm just going to stay in this position where I'm at work. I'm not going to move up. I'm not going to look for another job that could be better suited for me. I'm going to stay right here because this is what I know. All of those are examples of fear of failure. You're not using the word failure, but in each one of those situations, you're saying, I have a fear of failing, right? And then we have the fear of shame or the fear of embarrassment. How many times have you decided you could be like, let's go back to school, right? And you be in class and the teacher asks a question and you think you know the answer, you believe you know the answer, you're like 99.8% sure you know the answer, but you don't raise your hand because you're like, if I get it wrong, then that's going to be so embarrassed. Everybody's going to look at me. They might make fun of me. That's fear of embarrassment. Or you could be at work and you have this presentation or this idea that you have, and you want to tell everybody and show them what you've done or what you're thinking or what you're coming up with, or this new idea that you have that may make the work environment a little bit better, and you stay quiet because what if they don't like it? So, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to say anything. That's partly fear of embarrassment. Or why we don't try out for the things that we want to try out for. Or why, entrepreneurs or they, a lot of times when I attend different events or different trainings, a lot of times The thing was, they used to always say was, you gotta get on video. Don't be afraid, get on video. And a lot of people be like, that's not me, I can't do that. Or I'm not a speaker, I can't do that. Guess what? I'm a speaker, and as y'all see and as y'all can tell, sometimes my words get messed up, but that's because when I get on this podcast, I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. When I get on this podcast and I get to recording, I may have prepped something totally different than what I end up talking about. Because I just a lot of times I just go from my heart and my spirit and or what I'm really seeing lately from the people that because at the end of the day, I'm here to help, I'm here to guide you to overcome the residue of trauma. And then what's the residue? The residue is the things that trauma leaves behind. It's the fear, it's the shame, it's the guilt, it's the abandonment, it's the loneliness, it's the low confidence, it's the not having self-worth. It's all of those things. That's the residue. And I hope you overcome them. Why do I do that? Because I was once there and I know how it feels. And being on this other side, I promise you, it's so much better. So much better. But we're not going to go into that. That's not what this is about today. Today's about fear, right? All right. So, how does fear affect us? So, in many cases, fear is where self sabotage happens. It shows up as procrastination. I'm telling y'all, like, how many times have you said, oh, I'm going to do this? This doesn't happen because you're procrastinating and you're coming up with different ways of reasons why not to do it, right? Because I'm telling you now, for the longest, I've been saying, I'm going to have a podcast, I'm going to do this, and I hadn't done it. One, yes, it takes time, but it doesn't take that much time. And two, I was like, what am I going to say? What if people don't listen? What if I'm not helping people like I want to help people? But if you are still listening to me and what, about 17, 18, 20, I don't know, minutes in, and you're still here, then I'm actually doing something. I don't know, you may be watching me because you're like, look at her, she's goofy, she got big hair, she don't got no makeup on, and she's just talking. Okay, and I'm talking with a purpose. I am. I promise you that. But fear. All right, we talked about fear of shame, fear of embarrassment, but what about that fear of rejection? Have you ever not did something because you was scared that you'll be rejected? One thing I think about is like, when we're teenagers or young adults and you have like a crush and you want to go, even if you just want to go talk to them, not even ask out a person, and you're like, oh no, I'm not going to do it. What about that person don't like me? Rejection. Or for me, it's reaching out to people that are a lot of times, okay, so a lot of times when I see people on my Facebook page, right? Like I don't go on there all the time, but I'm there at least once a day. I do post my own stuff a lot of times if I don't pre-schedule it. Yes, I pre-schedule stuff. And I'll go on there and I see someone talking about something. I'm like, oh, I can help you. I know that feeling and I know I can help. But then I go and I start typing and I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to do it. I let that fear of rejection come in sometimes. And then most of the time, I might scroll down and not finish what I'm typing, but then I scroll back up and I go back and I finish what I was typing. Because I'm not going to let fear of rejection stop me from doing what I'm meant to do. And that is to guide others, to heal from their traumas, to heal from the residue, to heal from the fear of rejection, the fear of shame, the fear of embarrassment, the fear of failure, self sabotage, procrastination, all of those things. I'm not going to let it win. And sometimes I may have to sit here and give myself a positive talk and say high five. But I'm going to make sure I go through and I'm going to do it because I'm not going to let that fear of rejection stop us from succeeding. Because my ultimate goal is to get you to this side of that fear, to where it may affect you for a split second, but that's it, right? And then the other fears we have the fear of humility, the fear of submission, the fear of failure is like, I don't know, it's the biggest one. Or the fear of abandonment, or the fear of not having control. Yes, it's all of those things. So let's talk about when it comes to fear, right? I want to leave y'all with something. When it comes to fear, I want you to take time to own it. Own it doesn't mean for you to give in. Owning it means for you to accept that you have this fear. Just like I had to accept I have a fear of abandonment. I had a fear of rejection, fear of failure. But the thing that doesn't stop me is because I know who I am. I know what I can do. And I know that I am helping other people live a better life than they were living before. Because now they are also mentally healthy or on their way working to that. I wish I could give y'all like a show, I could just show or have the right words to express how it feels to see someone where they were and actually going through the process of either having weekly sessions or being in the program and seeing that growth. And a lot of times they see that growth for themselves because not only when they see it, when I notice it, I point it out so you can take a moment to just breathe in that, oh, I did that. Yes, you did. It's a blessing to see people break addictions, to see people start believing in themselves, to see people start knowing who they are, or start exploring different things so they can find out who they really are. It's amazing. And so when people tell me all the time that, because one things I get all the time is, I want help. I want to be better. I want to know who I am, but I'm afraid. Afraid, that's that fear again. And you know what I tell them? Most of the time I'm telling them, well, you know what? The good thing is you're not having to do it alone when you're working with me because I'm going to be your guide. I'm not going to push you. It's going to come out on your own. When you're ready to really dig deep, it's going to come out on your own. I'm just going to give you that foundation. And then next thing you know, you're going to be like, I have a fear of abandonment. That's what's wrong with me. I have a fear of abandonment and I don't know what to do about it. And you're just going to start going and on and on and on about it. And I'm just going to listen. And on my side, and if we're on the screen or if we're sitting in the office, I'm going to sit there and in my head be like, because you finally owned it. You're finally embracing one of your vulnerabilities. So guess what? We can really start the work. And owning our fear and owning our vulnerabilities and embracing them and recognizing them. And then guess what? We get to break up from them because we're overcoming those limitations. And the truth is, when it comes to fear, a lot of times we are fearful for nothing. There's times we should have fear. And there's a reason why we're fearful for things now. But sometimes we end our dreams, we end our visions, we end our chances because of our fear and not because we've already failed. That's the truth. Think about that. So when it comes to fear, I want you to focus on what do you have in your control. And if it's really something that your fear needs to have control over instead. Because a lot of times when we give fear control, it's something that we already have under control. We just got to believe in ourselves. And then to get rid of fear or the process of overcoming fear also includes having a growth mindset. And we'll go into that deeper in this series. But I'm telling you now, I'm going to be nice, but I'm going to be real in talking about this fear series. And it's something I literally just came up with now. Because when I can talk about fear, oh my gosh, I don't want to just hit the top and just skate on by because fear is what keeps the most of us back. It keeps a lot of people in bad situations. Have you ever been in a situation and you stayed because you were afraid, or because you were fearful, or because you had fear? I literally said fear three different ways. But that was to relate. So this series on fear is going to be for all of us, and we're going to go deeper into it, and we're going to talk about the different types of fear and how they present themselves and what we can do to overcome them. We're going to have I'm actually going to bring in some friends with me on this fear. So I hope y'all will keep listening so y'all can hear our round table about fear and how fear has affected our lives and how it may still be in our lives or how we then overcame fear. We're gonna have a real conversation. So I'm looking forward with that, and they don't even know yet. But I know my girls and I know that they're down. So before I end this episode, I want to leave you with a skill or homework, shall we say, right? So, when it comes to fear, we can't, we, it's easier to overcome them when we specifically know what we are fearful of. So, what I would like for you to do is get a pen and paper. And then when you have it, I want you to think of something that you have been putting off or that you're afraid to move forward on. Or, for an example, for me, um, it's easy to start it with what if I, okay? So mine is going to be like, what if I failed at Crystal J, the business, being successful and not booking stages and not growing at the rate that I wanted to grow. I don't know. So then I would take that and I would write about what if that don't happen? What if I don't book stages like I want to, or I don't grow as big as I want to where, I'm at home and I'm traveling and I'm just steady just in coaching session after coaching session and going and speaking to women at conferences and doing retreats on the regular basis and teaching people and doing this podcast and making guest experiences. What if I don't do that? What would be, what if I don't? For me, I may not be that big. Crystal J may not be that big. I may not make it that big. But believe me, I'm going to try because the way I see it, the bigger I get, the more people I can help. Because the more resources I'll have, the more people I can reach, and the more that people can start healing the residue of trauma. So that's what I want. But if that doesn't happen, then guess what? I'm already here where I'm at. I'm already impacting lives, showing women how to heal from trauma and showing them how to discover who they are authentically. Hey, I say I won because if you didn't listen to the last episode with my daughter, her change from the school year previously to now in how she stands up for herself, to how she speaks to her friends, and to how she teaches them, even how to be calm, and to her going from having anxiety attacks almost every day at school to where she hasn't had to call or text me once this year because she has the tools. She has been equipped with the tools that when she would start feeling the anxiousness stuff come on, she already knows when she needs her stress ball. She knows when she needs to do her breathing. She knows when she should just go write something. She knows when she needs to just walk away. That right there, I've already won with helping her and helping the people that I've already previously helped and doing what I'm doing now, being on this podcast and having, the coaching sessions and being able to bless people and not only being here but also at church, speaking and sharing the word and being a disciple of Christ and being a wife and a mother and a trauma recovery coach and a sister and a daughter and granddaughter and showing them the power of positivity, the power of overcoming trauma, of overcoming fear, of overcoming anxiety. Do I still get fear sometimes? Yes. Do I still get anxiety sometimes? Yes. But guess what? What's the difference? It can't break me because I have the tools that I'm equipped with. So, my worst case scenario, I stay where I'm at. So, we're at what if I, and then ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? And then we're going to go even further. You prevent, what can you do to prevent that worst scenario from happening? So my worst scenario is staying where I'm at, right? So to prevent that from so what would I do to prevent me from staying right here? I'm gonna keep showing up, and I'm gonna keep keep showing people how authentic I am and how much I believe in empowered transformational healing, how I believe in empowerment, how I know that this journey of healing that you're going on is going to transform you. To know that you can break addictions, to know that you can live life the way you want to live, to know that you can discover who you really are and own it. And then you can go into what can you do if it did happen, if your worst case did happen. What could you do to repair that damage? So let's say that my worst case scenario wasn't me staying where I was, but my worst case scenario was me not having a podcast and me not being able to help people the way that I help them, for me not being able to guide people to help them overcome trauma. What can I do to get back on track? I can show up and I can talk and I can be me. Because being authentically me is what got me here. Journey and me being authentically me. So try that activity for yourself and let me know how that goes for you. And I look forward to part 2 and part 3 of this fear series. So we're going to call this one, What is Fear? And then who knows what the other ones will be called next week and the week after. But y'all do know for sure it's going to be about fear because we're not done. We're going to talk about that fear of change, that fear of rejection, that fear of failure. We're going to talk about all of that separately because it's needed. And I know that it's needed because I see it all the time on Facebook. I see it all the time in the stores. I see it all the time on Instagram and TikTok. And when I have conversation with people, fear is what always comes up. It's not always in the word. It's not always using that four-letter word of fear. Sometimes it's procrastination. Sometimes it's self-doubt. Sometimes it's low confidence. Sometimes it's loneliness. But that four-letter F word is highly present. And so we're going to really take our time on fear. But we're going to equip you with tools. You're going to get to see other people's experiences besides my own when it comes to fear. And I would love to hear about your fear and how you overcame it. Or if you're in the process of trying to overcome it. Or tell me how I can help you overcome it. What if we had a retreat? Would you come? Because there's a lot of tools that we can do in a retreat. So if I was to host a retreat, would you come? And we're going to leave that as our episode today on what is fear. And I'll see you for the next few episodes going and diving deeper on fear, sharing tools on how to overcome fear. And who knows, we may end this with an announcement of a retreat to where we can really get down deep in them together. Right? Would you come? This has been an episode of What is Fear? Thank you for listening to Empowered Transformational Healing with Crystal J. And I see you next week.
Thank you for joining me today on the Empowered Transformational Healing Podcast with me, Crystal J. And we never know what others are going through silently. So take time to share, follow, and subscribe. And as always, believe in all that you are and know that there is this power within you that is greater